I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The Irreverent Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Hello nerds, Korg here. Coming up on this week's episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast, Mr. Will Boyer begins the episode by talking about a film that almost got made. Batman vs. Godzilla. Then we transition into an instant review of Thor Love and Thunder recorded by our very own Will and Richard minutes after watching the movie. Stay tuned to see what they thought of it and whether they agree with my 2.5 stars rating. There should have been more goats. And don't forget about the final segment of the episode where Richard Best will share an original short story that he wrote and performed. So, that's what's coming up on this week's episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. Don't miss it.
Hello, this is Cartoonist Will, and welcome to another exciting episode of Japan Jaunt. Now, today's Japan Jaunt is exciting. Why? Because earlier, at the last second, as I couldn't figure out what I was going to do tonight, my wife said, "What about Batman vs. Godzilla?" That's right, folks. I completely forgot. This is a real thing that almost happened. Batman versus or meets Godzilla. Two different titles, tentative titles. The original script was written by Shinichi Sekizawa, who had written other Godzilla films, such as King Kong vs. Godzilla. This was to be a project between Toho and Green Ray Productions. That's right, folks. This film was to star Adam West as Batman and Burt Ward as the Boy Wonder Robin fighting Godzilla in the 60s. That's right. The original draft by Shinichi Sekizawa was completed in 1965. Although his draft, no more copies seem to knowingly exist, what we do have is a second draft by an unknown American. It is, I would assume, an edited, rewritten draft of Shinichi Sekizawa's original draft from the Green Ray Productions side. This draft, the only known draft, is owned by Batman series producer William Dozier and kept in American Heritage Center in Wyoming. This film would have been a sequel to both King Kong vs. Godzilla from 1962 and, after the second draft, a sequel to Batman 66 theatrical film in 1966. It probably would... probably created by Sekizawa, this film was to cash in, most likely, on the crossover craze that King Kong vs. Godzilla produced, because there's lots of money in that, and honestly, why wouldn't there be? Batman vs. Godzilla. My gosh. So, why didn't this happen? It probably didn't happen due to bad timing, as both properties were starting to garner less viewers in 1967 and were starting to end their camp phases. Now, of course, Godzilla would remain to do camp for the rest of the 70s and then reboot in a darker sense in 1984, and in America, Godzilla Returns. Yes, same film, by the way, not separate ones. Just talking about the Japanese versus the American version of the same film. Anyway, getting back to Batman vs. Godzilla, it did not get picked up in 1965, obviously, and the reason why is probably because DC and Dozier and Greenway Productions were probably too busy creating the Batman 66 TV show first. Toho possibly moved on when their script was not picked up. The basic plot of this film would have been Barbara and Commissioner Gordon on vacation in Japan, but they would have called him Batman and Robin when a mad German scientist war criminal, Klaus Finster, an original villain created only for this film. He was a war criminal for World War II. He pops up demanding a 20 million ransom to be paid by the country of Japan, or he will destroy the nation with his latest invention, supposedly a weather-controlling machine. This is a ruse. as Batman uses his detective skills to deduce he is actually controlling Godzilla instead. Godzilla and Batman's team face off as a result of controlling Godzilla. Lots of hijinks occur in between the Godzilla fights, of course, if we can call them fights. I'm just joking, he's Batman. I want to see it, but he's not a kaiju. This would have been a very unorthodox Godzilla film. I wish it had been made. Anyway, lots of hijinks occur, including our heroes fighting several Japanese martial artists and other cultural stereotypes, such as kabuki actors with swords, sumo wrestlers on a bullet train. All of these would have been agents of the German scientist Klaus Finster. One scene contains the dynamic duo being trapped in a gas chamber disguised as a taxicab. Another has a naked but masked Batman and Robin chasing a villain through a bathhouse. A bathhouse. I love it. This is one of the scenes. This is probably the scene I want to see the most, because it's hilarious. It's hilarious. There would have been a car chase. They even would have fought robot doubles. Not doubles of themselves, but of other characters that had been killed and replaced by the mad scientist. But these androids were spying on Batman and Robin the whole time. The initial sight in this script of Godzilla causes Batman a nervous breakdown, but his wits are still in the final showdown. Batman's Batmobile is destroyed, but Batman gains a newer model by Japanese scientists, a new Japanese Batmobile. Godzilla even falls in love with Craig's Batgirl, and who wouldn't, and refuses to do her harm. Batman believes Godzilla is looking for a mate, and so tricks Godzilla into chasing a simulated female Godzilla mating call while he seals... Sorry, I'm reading my notes. What does that say? Scales. Ha! Because that didn't make any sense. Okay, while Batman scales Godzilla's back and straps a bomb to his neck, knocking Godzilla unconscious, and Klaus Finster having fallen to his death during an earlier rooftop fight, Batman and the Japanese people build a spaceship around the snoozing Godzilla and send him into Earth's orbit, where he will remain forever, or at least until the next Godzilla film anyway. Now, what's interesting is several ideas or elements of this script may have supposedly made it into later Godzilla films. A female Mechagodzilla was originally teased around in this right here, but it was tossed by Dozier. He did some edits and marked it out in favor of the mating call audio. Both the mating call audio and Mechagodzilla could have found their way into later Godzilla films. The first Godzilla film to include Mechagodzilla, for example. Also, the bird audio call in Godzilla Returns, aka Godzilla 1984, could have been taken from this original draft because Sekizawa wrote a lot of Godzilla films. So he could have taken this idea with him and reused it somewhere else for a movie that actually did get made. One of Batman's other ideas in the Godzilla vs. Batman film was to throw Godzilla into a volcano, and that may have also been used in the 1984 Godzilla Returns film. A weather machine also made its way into Son of Godzilla because Sekizawa, of course, he wrote the original draft in 1965. It's possible the idea of a scientist using a machine to try to get a ransom and take over the world could have also been used for the Batman 66 theatrical film, but personally I believe that's more likely a coincidence, as evil scientists are just a dime a dozen. Now, one of the things I really loved, I was floored when I found out this even existed 3 years ago, but a webcomic adaptation of this script synopsis was being created and published by a team of comic artists and writers on the website BatmanMeetsGodzilla.com. BatmanMeetsGodzilla.com. But only 2 downloadable issues came out, and the project mysteriously paused on August 24th, 2020. That seems to be the last update. I was reading this back then, and trust me, I was very disappointed. I kept checking back. Eventually, I just gave up. I checked again tonight, and I gotta tell you, there's been no more updates. No more. Very disappointed. Hopefully that gets picked up. I'm even tempted to email them and be like, hey, you need a cartoonist? Anyway, I've got plenty on my plate. It's just really exciting. And I really hope that the team that was working on this comes back to it. But anyway, I'd like to give some citations. I needed to refresh my memory since it had been 3 years since I found that this was a thing. So I need to refresh my memory. So here are my sources. The Wacky Story of Batman vs. Godzilla by Paperfins on YouTube. Godzilla vs. Batman, the movie that almost happened, by Dangerville on YouTube. TohoKingdom.com, TheKaijuologist.com, Wikizilla.org, and Grantland.com, all found on a Google search. Or a YouTube search, respectively. Anyway, that is tonight's Japan Jaunt. I hope that you all were just excited as I was initially when I found out that Batman vs. Godzilla was almost a thing. Well, here's to that, and who knows what else could have almost existed or might exist in the future. We'll never know. This is Cartoonist Will signing off. Sayonara.
Hey nerds, Richard here, taking a moment to talk to you about the podcast. If you have enjoyed one or all of our episodes, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and or follow us. We are on Spotify, Google, and Apple. If you're listening on Apple, please take a moment to leave us a review. It really does help. And let your friends know as well. Shout it from the rooftops. Come on, you know you want to.
We were literally out in the parking lot. Will and I just saw Thor Love and Thunder.
That might be my favorite part of this film.
And it's about as wild and crazy as our opening is.
Crazier, yeah.
It's a film that tried a little too hard to be funny. If this is saying anything, the two things that made me laugh the most were screaming goats and a very dark joke about eating children.
And what made me laugh the most was listening to Richard laugh about eating children.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they went there. It's very dark.
Dark times. We don't do that anymore.
Oh my goodness. So hey guys, we are, with very little preamble, we are jumping right into this week's episode. So we're recording this on Thursday night, which is, let's be honest, Thursday nights are the real opening nights. I don't know why they even bother to say it's the Friday. It's like, why do they do that?
I don't know.
Every theater I know of releases on Thursday. Everyone, it's like, I know it's like early release, but
Earlier.
Whatever.
No, it's not.
Anyway, Thursday night, the real opening night. So, all right, on a scale, or no, let's see. Should we do 5 stars or a scale of 1 to 10? What do you think, Will?
I was gonna, I have an answer no matter how many fictional numbers you choose to use.
Let's do 5 stars because this takes place in space. Much of it takes place in space. So, quick reaction. How many stars out of 5 would you give it? 5 being the best. Like,
do we have points?
5 is like The Godfather Part 2, or Avengers: Infinity War, or name your excellent movie.
Wait, what? I'm lost.
What would be your number 5? Like, if 5 is like the pinnacle of cinema.
What is my number 5?
What's your number 5? Like, what would,
I don't know. Maybe
what would be your measuring stick?
Maybe Infinity War.
That is my favorite MCU movie up to this point.
I have to admit though, I've become cynical after Endgame for some reason of the whole MCU.
Time travel,
and I don't know why. No, I loved Endgame. It's just just movies and theaters in general this year, I've just been cynical about them. I don't know why. I've been really harsh.
Well, sir, you can bring that cynicism into this review, because it will be well placed.
It will be well placed. We haven't even seen Jurassic World Dominion yet either.
That's true, we have not.
That's a horror waiting to be unleashed.
We have not. Eventually we will. All right, well, while you're thinking about your rating, I'm going to think about mine.
Well, I know my rating.
Out of 5 stars, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 0.5 being The Last Airbender.
Oh my gosh.
and 5 stars, let me see, what would be my 5-star film?
I don't even know. Are we sure that Last Airbender isn't somehow better?
You know, this is going to sound crazy, but one movie that's about as close to perfect as a film can get is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It hits on The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Well, okay, I need to watch
Ben Stiller. Yes, you need to see it. It's about as close to perfect as a film can get.
Well, that's great.
It hits on drama, comedy, epic scenery, beautiful music, heartfelt sentiment, and it nails all of it. And good music.
Right.
It's really hard to do that.
So, but
as far as the MCU is concerned, I think Infinity War, and I know there's a lot that build up to it, but I think Infinity War would be my number 5. And among the MCU movies, let's see, what would be my number 1? What would be my bottom of the scale for MCU movies?
That's really hard for me to decide.
Iron Man 2.
You know what? 2. I'm going with Iron Man 2 as well. I forgot that movie existed a lot.
By the way, if you couldn't tell, we're out in the parking lot. We're literally in the parking lot of the theater right after you saw this. So hopefully you can
nerds hang out.
Anyway, okay, so between Iron Man 2 and Infinity War, I'm going to put this right smack in the middle. I'm going to give it a 2.5.
I was thinking of 2.5. That's why I was asking if we could use points earlier.
Yeah.
It's like I want to give it a 3, but it's too high. I want to give it a 2, but I feel like it's too low.
I think right in the middle is a good rating. It's not the worst MCU movie. Definitely not the best.
No. I'm going to have to watch this again, preferably when it comes to Disney Plus, because right now I'm still trying to figure out what I just watched.
It was a wild ride.
Yeah, it was a wild ride with screaming goats. Ah!
So obviously this is not a video episode.
I was wondering.
The lighting is shit, as they say. I don't know who they is in this picture. But
I took a shower and changed clothes just for that video, Richard. I have on Rocket Raccoon on my chest.
Oh, yes.
Which didn't play in this movie as much as I hoped he would.
Yes, the Guardians. So this isn't much of a spoiler because you find this out in the first few minutes of the film, but the Guardians are only in the first few minutes of the film.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what I expected. I don't think I put a lot of thought into it, to be honest with you. I think I thought they would be in a little bit more of it, but I wasn't. I wasn't overly.
Oh well.
Yeah, like I wasn't overly interested in whether they would or wouldn't be necessarily. But by the way, we haven't gotten yours. Oh, that's right. You said 2.5 stars.
Yes, 2.5. Okay.
So we both agree 2.5 stars. This is a middle of the road MCU movie.
Middle of the road.
Yes. Better.
On the
better than The Last Airbender, but not as good as The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. So, Will, give us your spoiler-free.
My spoiler-free.
Your spoiler-free synopsis.
You mean a synopsis or my reaction to it? Synopsis of the film or reaction to the film?
Give us a synopsis. Give us a spoiler-free synopsis if you can.
Spoiler-free.
This is a test.
This is only a test.
Of the emergency broadcast system.
We've had spoilers? Okay, well, everybody...
If you can.
Okay, there are a few things everybody knows about this film, or at least everybody's been paying attention to trailers and the comic book storylines. Okay, so, Batman is going around killing all the gods, and, Senator, Amidala has cancer, and, Thor has to make a bunch of jokes to save everybody. Yay, the children. Begin.
Captain Kirk's father. You need to keep in mind there with your alternate movie references.
Is Chris Hemsworth the father of the new Captain Kirk?
Yes, he played Captain Kirk's father.
Hey. Well, he played Captain Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, for about 3 minutes.
Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah.
I missed that.
Sans the beard or long hair.
I really missed that. I really did.
If you go back and watch the 2008 Star Trek, 2008?
Yeah, the Abrams
Star Trek
one,
film.
right?
He's in it.
The first one, Abrams?
It's James Kirk's father.
Huh.
Anyway.
Well, I just wanted to be funny. This is what I thought the movie was going to be like going in. I thought it would have some humor because that's the direction Thor has been going lately. But I thought we were going to get this serious story about Jane Foster having cancer and trying to fight and battle that as the mighty Thor. I did know from the comics that every time she became the mighty Thor, it brought her closer to death. I did know that. Not everyone would know that, though.
By the way, that was a little bit of a spoiler. Actually, that was a spoiler.
Sorry, that was a spoiler.
Apologies. Sorry. All right, so
I guess I felt like it wasn't, but it was.
We're about halfway through the review, so we might as well jump in with spoilers. So from this point on, be aware there may be some spoilers that slip through. So if you haven't seen it yet, wait and listen to this afterwards.
Yes.
And argue with us.
But you should have done that from the get-go.
Yeah, you know us. You guys know us. You know, we spoil things. We like to spoil things. Maybe, yeah.
We'll go to your houses and leave your fridge door open. But I'll eat everything that's wasted food. But then we'll leave your fridge door open and it'll spoil.
Okay. All right, so you were talking about Natalie Portman battling cancer.
Well, I was expecting a different movie than what we got. That was my point. I'm sorry for the spoiler. We're now in spoiler territory. So what I was expecting is I was expecting a love story between Thor and Mighty Thor, who I actually wish was called Lady Thor, but isn't. But that's only because I'm confused about these names.
I probably thought it would be sexist to call her Lady Thor. So
yeah,
like,
well, she's Mighty Thor in the comics.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just confused about the names, and because that's actually Thor's name, but she's Thor. It's like in.
Is it really his name, though? I wonder, or is it a title?
No, it's his name, but it turned into a title for Mighty Thor. It's like in the last Skywalker saga Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker, where at the end, Skywalker turns from a name into a title.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, so I'm confused. I'm not saying I love the idea of Mighty Thor, Jane Foster. I'm just confused about the name. Anyway, so it's like if you had Barbara Gordon but called her Batman.
Yes, that's true. That would
or Bruce
instead of Batgirl or Batwoman.
Bruce Man.
Was she ever Batwoman? I know she was Batgirl.
She was Batgirl. Batwoman was Kate Kane, I think.
Yes. Okay.
And maybe some other people were
probably someone else too. I'm sure.
Anyway, I'm getting confused and lost. We didn't get the film, but I thought we got a movie that tried way too hard to be funny, and we were both talking about this. Richard, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I felt similarly about this one, to the way I felt about Thor Ragnarok. Obviously, Thor: The Dark World, it has some humor, but not much. It's fairly somber film for the most part. And Thor Ragnarok, they were definitely trying to go in a different direction. And the first time I saw it, I felt like they were trying too hard, and the humor didn't quite seem to fit the Thor character because it seemed to be a departure from his character. And
this is true.
It's like it didn't quite work for me the first time. But then the second time I watched Ragnarok, whatever the reason, I was more amenable to it the second time, and I enjoyed it a lot more the second time I watched it, and the humor worked a little more for me. And I felt like in Infinity War, they struck maybe the perfect balance of gravitas and just enough humor infused. I thought the Russo brothers were particularly good at that.
True.
In infusing just enough humor so that you don't get depressed.
That's all I ask for is balance.
Yeah.
I don't want an entire container of wontons or just soup and one wonton. I want a balance. Melissa McCarthy said.
Yeah, and I do think
it was in this film.
I do think they were trying to. I feel like they were trying to top Ragnarok as far as humor went, and some of it landed and some of it did not. Like, by the way, spoiler warning. Although it's not a huge surprise, but Matt Damon makes another cameo in this film.
Oh, he did? I missed it.
What?
Was that one of
he
the
played
actors?
Loki. He played Loki. He was
okay.
Yeah, he was the fake Loki.
I was wondering if those people were supposed to be someone I should know about. So okay.
Well, no, I like the fact that you find out that they are actually Asgardians, which I don't know who else they would have been in the other movie, but like that they actually connect them to the community and they talk to the queen. You know,
I'm surprised they survived the destruction of Asgard.
Yeah, it's like, why did they survive? Well, I guess you can't kill Matt Damon.
I guess not. He had a long commute to work.
But no, like that cameo was hilarious. And of course, Sam Neill plays Odin's son once again. He reprises his role as...
Wait, that was Sam Neill?
That was Sam Neill.
Wait. So he looked familiar. So
he plays Odin.
Odin was
not
playing
Odin's son.
The
Odin.
fake. The real Odin was playing the fake Odin in this film.
No, Sam Neill was playing fake Odin, like the actor who was portraying Odin in the play.
So who plays the real Odin?
The real Odin wasn't in this film.
Okay, so you're just saying Sam Neill was on board for fake Odin. Okay.
Yeah. Sam Neill played the Asgardian actor who played Odin.
I didn't even recognize him.
Really?
So we had Dr. Grant.
You didn't recognize
here.
his voice?
We had Dr. Grant. No.
His voice is so distinctive, more or less. Anyway, we're getting off topic again.
Very off topic.
So we'll rewind a bit and give this... Let's rewind all the way back to the beginning, where Christian Bale's character... Did they ever say what his first name was?
They just call him Gore.
Gore. Okay.
Yeah.
So Gore the God Butcher.
It's like his only name.
But initially he's just Gore. And the film opens with him and his daughter basically dying of thirst in a desert. And he kneels down and he cries out to the gods and asks for them to save his daughter. And she dies very sadly.
A very particular god he prays to.
Yeah.
His name I don't remember, but was complete jerk.
Yeah, I don't even remember. That's which I guess is supposed to be a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
Like, and then for some reason, I don't completely understand why his name got called, or why he was like summoned to the god's oasis that suddenly popped up in the middle of the desert.
I was
quite
confused. I thought he actually might have died.
I know. It was the sword that called him.
But yeah, it was the sword calling him. I couldn't figure out. Okay, so since the sword was calling him, did the sword therefore help him get to the oasis?
I guess so.
Like open the portal to this god realm.
The what's the name of the sword again? The necromance?
The necromancer sword?
Something like that. They use the word necro, which means
the
death.
necro sword. Necromancer sword. I don't know.
Something like that.
But that doesn't make any sense because, well, okay, the shadow beast.
Well, I mean, it was like the shadow realm calling to him through the sword.
That must have been it.
Because that particular god had just killed the previous owner of the sword who was trying to kill him. So, because he's like laying dead there.
Right.
And then Gore becomes the next chosen person, chosen vessel, whatever, for the sword.
So the sword is a girl.
I don't know.
But how sure are we on the name of the sword? Because necromancing swords would actually resurrect the dead to zombies. But he did. He did
necro something. I mean, the idea is like it's the sword of death, basically.
Yeah, I'm thinking it must have been just the necro sword.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up. Anyway, the sword of death.
Yes, death sword.
The death sword.
Doom knife.
So he takes that on, and then throughout the course of the first act of the film, we find out that he has been killing the gods. Which, do you know anything about the Marvel Comics origin of the gods? Were they created by the Celestials?
That's complicated and stupid.
Is it? Like, did the Celestials create them, or
We saw 2 Celestials as they got the heck out of there of the city of omnipotency. Or
yeah, I noticed that. Like they were, or they were the guard. Were they the guards to the? I don't know. They were just like standing there, and
they were just too big to get to the meeting hall.
I guess.
I don't know, man. It's like when all the writers of the Marvel Comics decided to write all this stuff, they didn't decide to consult each other. Oh, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like our nice little
we
god of...
We got Fat Zeus.
We got Fat Zeus.
Fat Zeus.
But we also got our Chinese dumpling god.
Yeah. That was interesting. And then, of course, we got Korg's god.
Yes, Korg was very honored that day.
Yeah.
The most killest god there.
Yeah, so, like, he's killing all the gods. Thor finds out, and he comes to New Asgard on the Earth. And New Asgard, which is on Midgard, and conjures up shadow monsters who start attacking the town of Asgard. And then Thor finds out about it from... I feel bad. I can't remember the name of the... No.
I zoned out. I was too busy still trying to figure out how to answer your question about the creation of the Marvel Universe.
The warrior, she was a part of Thor's...
Oh, you mean Valkyrie?
No, the other warrior that was a part of War's...
Sophie.
No.
Sophie?
No.
Sephi.
No.
That's it, Sephi.
No. Seth? Those are Seth, I think.
That's her nickname.
Anyway, he finds out from her about the God Butcher, and then he realizes that he's attacking Asgard. And obviously, we realize pretty quickly that the God Butcher is doing that to lure Thor there, because he wants to get Thor's... My brain is not working tonight. What's the name of Thor's weapon? He says it so many times in this film.
Well, the original weapon was Mjolnir, and then
Mjolnir.
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker.
Although I think he starts calling it Mew Mew when he sees it again.
Mjolnir. Mjolnir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Nordic. It's Nordic. So it's
I don't speak Nordic.
Mjolnir. I don't either. Mjolnir. But yeah, so Stormbreaker, and he wants to get a hold of Stormbreaker, and we find out later that this is because he wants to break into Eternity, or Eternity's realm, however that works, so that he can be granted a wish. And the wish he intends to make is to kill all gods throughout the known universe.
And what I'm confused about is I thought Eternity... Chris Pratt's character, Star-Lord, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, gets a glimpse of Eternity and calls out Eternity in that film.
Really?
And so that was our first glimpse of this character in the MCU. I'm not certain if that's supposed to connect or how that does connect to this film. But I will say, I thought that Eternity was a Celestial. And he looks like a Celestial in the outline. By the way, this little girl, they say... Okay, this is the spoiler review.
Oh yeah, the God Butcher's daughter that was killed. This is the third act of the film, so we're jumping ahead a little bit.
Well, I'm just confused about Eternity. Her reflection in the water is Eternity.
Yeah.
I wonder about that. I mean, I don't want to spoil too much. We'll just put it that way.
I mean, this is a spoiler review at this point.
Yes.
But, so, I guess we'll go ahead and jump into the third act, because both our opinions, it was the best act of the film.
Yes.
The first two
acts sucked.
Yeah, they were severely lacking. Most of the jokes didn't land. The dialogue was a bit stiff. The delivery was a bit stiff. I kind of liked Russell Crowe's, meant to be hilarious Zeus performance. It's like if they took the father from Big Fat Greek Wedding and turned him into a Greek god. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I think he was trying to channel the dad from Big Greek Fat Wedding.
I guess that fits. Yep.
Which, if you've seen the film or if you've seen him in anything recently, you know that Russell Crowe is currently overweight and has been for some time because he never works out. Even back when he did Gladiator, I remember hearing like he did not want to work out even for Gladiator. Which is kind of funny. age has caught up with him, it seems. Anyway, but yeah, like he kind of pokes fun at himself, I think, in this. And yeah, Russell Crowe's actually pretty good with comedy. If you've ever seen The Nice Guys, it's really funny. It's him and Ryan Gosling. It's one of those rare films that can combine a very serious murder mystery with dark humor, and it pulls off both. Like it's funny, but it's also, you want to know what happens in the mystery. But anyway, I recommend it. But we're off topic again. So the third act, and probably the most epic scene in the movie would be when they go to the Shadow Realm. Though I love when they crash on I don't know if it's the Shadow Planet or what.
I don't even know.
They just crashed on it. And it evoked I think one of the very first, if not the first, motion picture ever made, which is Journey to the Moon or Trip to the Moon. You know,
were they in black and white on the moon?
Yeah, like where the people are trying to go to the moon, and then shows a spaceship going towards the moon, and then it hits the moon's face.
Oh, that!
Have you ever seen that?
I think I know what you're talking about. They got there with a bullet, right? Like a bullet.
I mean, it's a spaceship. Yeah, it's like bullet shaped.
Yeah, but then boom.
Yeah.
Shot them off Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the moon has a face, and then it hits the moon.
Yeah.
That was one of the very first motion pictures.
They think they made me watch that in Digital Effects and Animation College.
Makes sense. It's historic. But the crash onto
saw that dinosaur. Okay, I'm getting off track.
Yeah, well, the crash onto the Shadow Planet reminded me of that, and then of course, at first you think the goats have died in the crash, but they survived.
Yeah, I was like, I've seen too. I love those goats.
But no, that was funny, I must say, because I wasn't expecting it, because it's getting uber serious, and then it turns black and white, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen now?
That was a really neat effect, though.
It was. I liked that.
I didn't understand why it was suddenly we're here, and then boom, black and white.
Where's the color?
Yeah, you would have thought that it would have been like well before they were there or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, and the only source of color in the Shadow Realm is when the light of Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, you start to see a little bit of color.
What's it like, the realm of death?
Yes.
And the realm of death, sorry I yawned, and what, the divine God powers brought color? I don't know. Represented light or something?
I guess, like, I symbolically. But yeah, the God Butcher is there, and he's keeping the Asgardian children hostage there to lure Thor and his company, which he successfully does, and successfully arrests the Stormbreaker from Thor before they go back to Midgard. There's another.
What's Logard?
All right, so we're getting close on time here. So we've rambled on about Thor. We both enjoy it. I mean, it's Marvel. It's Thor.
Yeah,
we enjoyed it.
I enjoyed parts of it.
Yes,
I tried to enjoy the whole thing.
Definitely middle of the road MCU movie, kind of mediocre as far as MCU movies go.
I don't think the story was lacking. I think that they just
the execution
overdid it too much on the humor, and
that's the tough thing about comedy is that it either lands or it doesn't.
And I don't want to force a Ghostbuster reference, but Ghostbusters, it could have been a straight up comedy, and it probably would have flopped, in my opinion. It still would have been cool, but flopped. But it takes itself seriously, and that's something this movie doesn't. It doesn't take itself seriously until the third act.
It's true.
And that's what I didn't like about it. Why should I take your movie seriously when you don't even take it seriously?
It's a really good point. Yeah, because
why should I take this story seriously? Why should I take your cancer seriously? It's just jokes everywhere, you know? Like every single second is a joke. But sorry, I just wanted to get my beef on the table here before we close.
Yeah, that's what this is for.
Yeah.
No, I do agree. Like, it did not execute the humor well. It didn't have the balance that some of the Russo films in the MCU did of, the gravitas, the seriousness, and then the humor. And And even Thor, I think, was funnier in those, in part because you had the balance there between the seriousness and Thor's humor. It just felt more natural in those films, as well as the other humor. It felt more natural. Whereas this, like you said, like it did feel more forced. Like, so it's about time to go. Mikio again with the giant screaming ghost. Why they're screaming, I don't know. So, Taika, I don't know if you're going to be directing the next Thor movie or if there's going to be a next Thor movie, but if there is, please do better. We know you can. And thank you for giving my body back by the end of the film. I was very glad to have a body again. Didn't know I could grow one after being only a face. But hey, I could. And I made baby. A lovely baby with Blaine or Dwayne. I don't remember his name. He had a mustache though, which I'm not sure what that was made of, but whatever.
I think it was like volcanic rock. Was there a fuzzy rock? I think it was moss. Anyway. Okay, so...
Don't make fun of my husband.
In the comments, if you think it's Blaine, type Team Richard. If you think it's Dwayne, Team Will.
Oh, we can
go Team Will.
We can make that a poll. We can make that a poll. Was it Blaine or Dwayne? So Will thinks it was Dwayne because he thinks it's a reference to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which could be funny. I could see that, but I'm pretty sure it was Blaine. But I may be very wrong. Yeah. Taika, if you're listening,
you can just beep it out.
We love Korg. We really do.
Make a Korg movie. That's all we want.
Oh, yes.
With Deadpool.
Korg. Oh, yeah. Korg and Deadpool. And maybe Wolverine.
I'm great at what I do. What I do, it's not kosher.
Wolverine could,
I'm Batman.
Could cut my arm off or something and it would grow back. I'd be okay.
Apparently you do that.
Alright. Goodbye, nerds. You're still here. Goodbye.
Sayonara.
Smithers, who are these irreverent nerds? Well, sir, they're the hosts of this podcast. What's a podcast? Well, sir, it's kind of like a radio show. Ah, I see. Like The Shadow or CBS News. Yes, sir. I think we should buy it. I don't think it's for sale, sir. Poppycock, I just bought Twitter. I can buy this podcast. Alright, sir. I'll talk to them and see what they say. Excellent. Sacred Path, written and performed by Richard Best. Upon entering the viewing room, the young student noticed his teacher sitting, cross-legged and still, in front of the viewport. The lights were out, so that only the outline of his slender frame could be seen against the backdrop of the massive planet's many storms. One of them, which the student knew to be as large as thousands of his home planet put together, swirled violently just to the left of his teacher's head. There exists only what is, nothing more. This is the way of things. The old teacher, his wrinkled eyebrows furrowed, cast a stern glance at his student. At first, this made the student shrink. He lowered his head in shame. "Do not look down. You must not turn away from me." "I am sorry, old one. I meant no disrespect." "Young one, The person for whom you should hold respect is yourself. Do not allow anyone to turn your gaze to the ground. Yes, old one. The student lifted his head, stirring up the courage to meet his teacher's fiery gaze. There was a passion and wisdom there which seemed so out of reach. How am I ever to walk the sacred path as the old one has? He thought. It seems so far away. Your thoughts betray you, young one. You wonder how you can ascend to the sacred path. Yes, old one. First, you must learn that you will never attain it. Only then will you be ready. Old one, I do not understand. How can I ascend if it is not possible for me to attain it? When our ancestors walked the ground, they imagined the sacred path could be found out here, amongst the planets and stars. Now that we have been traveling amongst them for thousands of years, we have begun to believe the sacred path is to be found upon the soil of our new home. But you do not think so, old one? The teacher did not immediately respond to his student's question. He could see the eagerness in the young one's eyes. He wants to be the one. The teacher shook his head, then turned to his student and spoke. When one believes he has found the sacred path, he should keep looking, for he has not found it. Old one, I do not understand. Have you not attained the sacred path yourself? Do you not now tread upon it? I do. Then why do you say one who seeks it must keep looking, even after he believes he has found it? Young one, how did our people come to travel amongst the stars? We discovered the folding of space, and we learned to traverse the fold. Indeed. And what of the 12th engineer? If she had accepted that her kind had found the fastest means of propulsion and sought to look no further, would she have learned how to traverse the fold? The student thought for a few moments. He did not wish to give the wrong answer to his teacher. Finally, he ventured to speak. No. Our people would have remained in our galaxy had she believed her forebears had achieved the fastest speed. Indeed. And how do you think this line of inquiry relates to your seeking of the sacred path? The young student pondered this question for several minutes, his smooth brow furrowed in concentration. The old one sat patiently, not deigning to move lest he alter his student's focus. At last, the young one spoke, his face suddenly lighting up with understanding. I see it! If the 12th engineer had believed that the 11th engineer had attained to this sacred path of space travel, then the 12th would not have tried to find a better way. She would have stopped. So, in believing she had not attained it, she was able to ascend to the sacred path of space folding. The teacher smiled. His student was nearly there. Do you believe that the 12th engineer attained the sacred path? The student looked confused. Did she not? We have been testing her theories for thousands of years and have found no way to improve them. Did she not ascend to the sacred path? Young one, first, all students must realize they will never attain the sacred path. Only then will they be ready to ascend. I still do not understand. If one says, I have found the way, then he has not found it. If one says, I have not found the way, yet continues to seek it, then he has found it. The old one looked over at his student, a twinkle in his eyes. The young one saw a beautiful blue sphere reflected in his teacher's eyes. He started, then asked, "Is that our new home?" "Yes, young one. We have found it." Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Sci Fi Focus. Stay tuned next week for more. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at irreverent_nerds, plural. We are on Facebook. Our fan page is simply called The Irreverent Nerds. We're on YouTube, The Irreverent Nerd. And if you go to anchor.fm/irreverent nerd, you can support us for 99 cents a month, $4.99 a month, or $9.99 a month. You can also send us a voice message, which we may include in a future episode. Fellow nerds, until next time, make it so. Engage. Avengers assemble. I'm Batman.